Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gantuya. My presentation name is Youth, Society, Phenomenon, and Ways to Reduce. Let's go to the next stage, next page. Next slide will be about introduction, my presentation. Born in the destiny of the man is the same as the fate as bravery on the tip of a needle. It is unfortunate that some suffering from incurable diseases, but one day they are fighting to the death to survive, while others destroying their healthy bodies and committing suicide. Let's go to the next slide. Suicide phenomenon. According to a study, the average suicide rate is 11.4, 15 men and 8 women per 100,000 population by the World Health Organization in 2016. Suicide accounts for 1.4%, and it is a 15th leading cause of the death of the world's population. We are going to talk about next slide about the fear of the world in Mongolia. One person dies in 40 seconds in the world. One day, that is the mean of the one day, 86,400 seconds, about 40 seconds, and 365 days equal the 788.400. One person is expected to commit suicide every 20 seconds in the future. One day equal 86,400 seconds, 20 seconds, and 365 days equal 1.576.800. Young people are supposed to be the leaders of their country's development, but their restless suicide is the 8th leading cause of death in Mongolia. Studies shows that sad news is that is young people between the ages of the 10 and 34 are more likely to commit suicide. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the purpose of our reports. As socially developed society rates are rising according to the World Health Organization and the region, this is one of the most important issues in the country. And this slide will be about method. The object of the research is the hidden social problem that has already shown the morality of the world. The data of 213 people were analyzed by means of the documents and reports, and the results were analyzed in the archives and the statistical data. Okay, that is our next slide. It will be slide number 14, research overview. According to the World Society Survival, Mongolia ranks third in the world in the number of societies. World Health Organizations in 2015. It ranks second and third of the male society and 24th in the term of female society in the world. The number of societies per days low, which means that is a living standards of the population are low in our country. There are many factors that is directly and indirectly affect the use of the electronics resources without restrictions. Okay, that is the next slide, number 18, and Cuba use society. There is no one of has not completed the 10 questions longest test. Children have answered that question. Did you think of society? In the midst of that question, most of the children who answered the question for once I tried it, I was so scared and I thought a lot and I thought when I cried. And the fact that there are so many such answers that I always think about shows how close the risk is. Please attention, look at the types of suicide frequencies and shot himself, stabbed himself. Poison was used and jumped from a height and took medicine, much medicine, and served Daniel and drowned it into the water and distributed the blood and burn it to death and other types of, and there is a frequencies male and female. You can look at that diagram from the type of suicide frequencies. We are going to talk about next 21 slide, depression and suicide. 26.1% of the survivors said they had seriously considered suicide. 10.7% said had attempted suicide in the last 12 months, according to the Ministry of Health, and 41 and 4/4 of the population thinks about suicide, and 1 and 7 planet to commit suicide, and 1 and 10 reported multiple attempts. Now let's talk about presentation slide 22. In case of suicide, seasonality, winter, spring, summer, and autumn, and 60% of suicides occurring in the spring and summer. The suicides were highest in March, April, May, July, and August. Let's talk about warm season suicide. The activity of the solar radiation, for example, lowering cholesterol and the indicator of the fat metabolism, and can lead to depression and seasonal rhythms. Some biomarkers in the peripheral blood that affect the rhythm of the biomarkers of the nervous system, and that is a mean of the serotonin, because anxiety and thus increase the risk of the suicide. We're talking about presentation 23. Resistance to conclusion suicide is a manifestation of the growing tendency for negative factors. Today, the government's policy aimed at the young people, leisure environment and opportunities to solve problems and family atmosphere and uncontrolled cubic space. Let's talk about continue that conclusion. Presentation slide 25. In terms of the age structure of society, rates are higher among men aged 15 to 29 than among people. In terms of motivation, they answered that they did not express themselves properly to the others, 15.7%, and because of family complex, 15.2%. Among the people, young people love, failure, and depression are also high. However, there's a phenomenon directly, indirectly affect them: employment, alcoholism, the economic, parental, and parental love, and family warmth. Although the General Police Department has forecast decline the youth suicide, it is important to ensure the safety of firefighters. The suicide of psychological comfort is an environment in which young people spend their free time. It is important to note that I did not see the decline of an overly electronics. Now we are going to introduce about some of the recommendations from our reports. Number one, to develop and improve an official information sheet and registration of the attempted suicide and suicide in Mongolia, establishing an unified registration network. Second, to cooperate with the activities of such organizations and emergency center, trauma and poisoning center, anti-violence center. And third one, to increase the access to psychological service for the population, to improve the registration and diagnosis and treatment of people with the mental illness. And fifth, investigate the possible cause of suicide and attempted suicide organization research-based care. And last one, to reduce domestic and peer pressure and violence.